All right, 10 a.m. now Central Time here on this Wednesday morning. An Iraqi American writer and director, Weam Namou, is breaking new ground with her new film, Pomegranate, an award winning dramedy exploring identity, faith, and division within immigrant communities. Set in suburban Detroit, now the film highlights tensions in common ground between Iraqi Muslim and Christian neighbors navigating life in America. Let's welcome Weam to the news desk. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, William, what inspired you to tell this story now, and where did the idea come from?
Well, the idea came from all the tension that was happening during the 2016 elections.
Hmm.
And so everybody was going against each other, liberals, conservatives, but mo mostly in my community, the Christians and the Muslims, there was so much tension that was happening there as well because of the political situation. And so, people were arguing on social media, and I tried to get involved in that a little bit. I didn't do a good job, or I got to, it wasn't that easy. There were some very, very more aggressive people than me.
Yeah.
So I decided to take all my creative energy and create something very beautiful, meaningful, and honest at the same time, because I do believe very much in freedom of speech. I was born in Baghdad to a very totalitarian regime. So
Hmm.
you could not speak your mind. And so I believe that we can get a lot further if we are able to speak our mind, but also to be respectful and to come from a place of love. And so I created it just to be able to respond to what was happening. And it just so happened that it was released after the second elections of
Yeah.
a similar situation. And so we've been working on it for a while, not knowing that President Trump would become president again. And that whole scenario kind of was replaying itself.
Yeah, it did work out quite well for the timing, didn't it? So the movie deals with some pretty heavy themes, but you do it through humor. Why was that tone important?
It's very important because for since I started writing over 3 decades ago, what I is missing about our stories from Middle Eastern backgrounds is the humor that exists in our homes,
Hmm.
in our communities. And then when that's taken out, what happens is we become just this caricature of either victims or terrorists. And so there isn't real human story to it. And Scott Rosenfeld, the producer of Home Alone, he hopped on to this story very early on. What attracted him what attracted him was the theme. He actually was signed on with us before he even read the script because he felt this was going to be a very important story. What surprised him was the humor. And he said
Hmm.
that when he was reading it, what he felt, he was comparing it to the My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And he said, when he was reading it, he's of Jewish background, and he felt that he could connect to the characters. So I think what humor does, whether it's Tyler Perry or any writer and director that is writing about their community, and if they are honest with what happens in their communities and come from a place of love, everybody connects. So you transcend the idea that this is a Middle Eastern story or this is a woman's story or what have you, and it just becomes a powerful story.
What do you hope audiences, especially those unfamiliar with these communities, take away from the film?
Well, the Middle East is very diverse. I'm
Mm.
Chaldean, which is Christian Iraqi, and when we are seeing what we see in the media, especially, is we see just one version of the Middle East. Not all Muslims have the same belief system. Not all Christians. It's very, very diverse. And that diversity is not highlighted at all. And so we are getting stuck into this stereotypical story again and again and again. And breaking out of that is very difficult. But what I would hope, what it's been doing actually, not what I hope, because it's this film has screened at the U.S. Naval Academy. It's going to be screened at several colleges this year, and
Hmm.
so what I'm finding is based on the feedback that I'm getting is that people are actually getting to see a side that they rarely ever see.
Yeah. Let's get a look now at the trailer for the film. If we can bring this up, here we go.
Have you ever thought about removing your hijab?
Do you really have to pick Sterling Heights? Everybody here is Iraqi Christian.
Oh, because I know you'd embarrass us with all this feminist talk, huh? Iran! It's Iran!
You need to rest.
I wish.
Mary, still trying to save everyone?
Do you think Mary would ever give me a chance? Some Christian girls date Muslim guys. Besides, I'm an atheist.
All right, Mira, tell me, what do you want to do with your life, Mama?
A poetic warrior for a woman. Maybe even a rapper.
Alhamdulillah, I'm smart enough not to have an education. I got the letters from Obama! Can you give me the number to the White House, please?
There's a lot you don't know about me.
And you don't know much about me.
Maybe we just send her to Iraq.
Send her to Iraq. Send her to Iraq. Are you crazy?
Mama, I'm not gonna marry Ahmed.
You have no choice, Niran. Niran, she's gone. Do you know where she is?
I never touched her. Everybody stop!
Niran?
All right, Weam, that looks very, very good. How much of your personal journey is reflected in this story?
I would say a lot. From the very beginning, when I started writing these stories, I realized that our stories were pretty much absent from books and from films. And so even my stories that are novels are really based on our life. They're really documenting our life. In my case, particularly as Chaldeans, we are considered an endangered people. We have been, for the most part, pushed out of our birthland, and currently Michigan has the largest population of Chaldeans in the world because of particularly after 2014 when ISIS attacked our ancestral villages. And so for me, this is part of documenting our stories. But another part was because I feel like women's stories in the Middle East are not told and they're not honest. And in this film, the Muslim family is Muslim in real life, and I'm not taking any credit. I always tell I don't take credit for that. It just happened with God's grace. And the Christian family, it's all Chaldean, and that just worked out that way because it worked out. But the point is that we all believed in that same thing, that we need something that is very, very authentic. And we are of different religions, but given being from the Middle East, we have some of the same struggles. And that's what I want to show. We do have some of the same struggles. We do have a lot of differences, but and we are very independent. We're strong. The women, they are able to express themselves how they want. They're just not given that opportunity oftentimes because there are louder voices, more aggressive voices that are just really just taking up all the arena.
How did you come across the name Pomegranate, and how does it reflect? Is there a message in the film?
Yeah. So pomegranate is revealed of the meaning of it, which it has actually in ancient times it was a Hebrew word, which means which is Rahman in Iraqi, and it's really reflects the blessings of God. It has a lot of biblical symbolism, and it's particularly for the Hebrew. And at one time, we all lived, Jewish, Christians, Muslim, we all lived together in Iraq. And over the years, unfortunately, we became the minorities, the Jews and the Christians. And it's unfortunate because we contributed a great deal to that land. We are part of the cradle of civilization from ancient times, before even religion was formed. And pomegranate, what I look at for me, aside from the biblical aspect to it, is, it reminds me of Earth, the way it's shaped. And then when you open it, it's got all these separations, these minor separations, but the seeds are all still the same color. They might be a little bit of different there's the same texture, but they might be different sizes. And so I think at the end of the day, we are all human and we are living on this earth, and we are divided a little bit by border to some extent, but we have so much of the sameness. Even though if these borders are dividing us, but in regards, and I feel like regarding the blessings of what pomegranates represent, of newness, of the beautiful things, is our ability to create something new. This country, for example, gave us so much that I would not be interviewed where I am, or be given this platform,
Right.
unfortunately, if I was in my birth country. So my parents, I was a child when we came here, and I had I wasn't in the decision-making process of coming here. But thank God that my parents were wise enough to know that we could not grow over there. And my father had a lot of daughters, and he wanted them to blossom. And to me, I feel like this is, you know, um, like a gift for him, even though he has passed. So I would like also, regarding the Middle Easterners, non-Middle Easterners will just love the story of all it represents and seeing something new. It's really very new, not only because of the Middle Eastern aspect, but the topic is new. I watch a lot of movies and I feel like they're just kind of saying the same thing, showing the same communities. But this one is the first Iraqi American feature film, and it's
Yeah.
won nearly 60 international film awards. But what I want the Middle Easterners to see as well is we came here for a reason. And one of the reasons is because we don't want what we fled from where we came from for the most part. I really don't know anybody that came because it was so great over there. And it's us recognizing the blessings in this country and utilizing them. Like, let's not waste time. We have a beautiful background. Don't forget your heritage. I mean, I know who I am in my heritage, and I like to teach it to my children. But at the end of the day, we're Americans. I mean, that's what we are, because we live on U.S. soil, and this country has been very, very good to us. And allowing us to even speak, something as small as that a lot of people don't even know the value of that, how important it is.
William, as you mentioned, this is a first Iraqi American narrative feature led by an Iraqi American team. What responsibility do you feel carrying this film?
Yeah, I've been feeling responsible too. I became a filmmaker. I went to film school full time for a year at the Motion Picture Institute of Michigan, and it was because
Hmm.
I was my stories were always faced with, oh well, this story we don't feel is going to fit in this, and or it's not going to fit in that. Who would we cast? And I thought, well, we cast men as women in different comedy films, and that's okay. So is it that hard to
Hmm.
cast an Arab in a good movie? So I realized early on that I'm going to have to just do it myself. And it had been such a challenge because non-Middle Easterners feel like they want us, even though they say they encourage diversity, but they always want the stories that I don't want to tell. Like, I don't want to write about honor killing because that's not my immediate experience.
Hmm.
And I know it exists, and that's fine. And there are already people writing about that and doing documentaries, but that has not been my experience, or even the Muslim women that I associate and I'm friends with. That's not our issues. Our issues are different, and because the West has this certain perspective of how our stories should be. As for the Middle Eastern community, they still have a lot of issues with women, And I don't feel like they value filmmakers enough, and especially for women to tell their stories, they're not very supportive. And so imagine being where I'm at, where I am dealing with these different communities, but yet I am a very faith-based person, and this is my calling, and I'm very committed to do that. Somebody has to do it, so I decided to, regardless, and God has been good. Open doors for me that other people who even have even bigger contacts have not been able to. I mean, we got Scott Rosenfeld to be our executive producer, and I didn't have to fly to LA to do that. I right here in my home, we met through
You,
through online, and that's also because
yeah.
of God's grace.
I know you mentioned that your father has passed. Is your mom still with us?
My mom also passed later. She passed
Okay.
away in 2019. Yeah.
Okay. I was just going to see what they would have thought, I suppose, about this film. I mean, you've got to be so proud of putting something like this together. Uh, were there any challenges bringing this story to life?
There was a lot of challenges, but at times when I actually even thought, just to think, is this going to go forward? Should I not? I had amazing people team that kept me grounded. Our producer, Sam Sacco in LA, Scott Rosenfeld, our cinematographer. And by the way, all the people that I'm pointing out right now, they're all men. Editor Jamad Adams, they were my backbone. They would call me, at the time when I was freaking out about something, and they would just be like, oh, did you get this done, did you get that done? And they really kept me grounded. So I am so grateful, although this was led by women talent, but the men who were not even trying to show off or take any credit or anything like that were really our backbone. I really appreciate them. And the challenges were, I had my first book cancellation talk in 17 years for Pomegranate, because certain members of the Muslim community just, there are topics that they just kind of feel like it's off the table, and the reality is we have to bring them forward. These are important stories, and we're not, and there's so much complaint about the voices, Middle Eastern voices, not being in Hollywood, but we have to look within and see why is that. And why that is because we are not telling authentic stories. We can't just be limited by how the story will look or end. It's a very loving story. It is by Muslims and Christians, we work together as a team. So there, and that was our first book talk cancellation. There was a lot of pushback in other ways, but it's okay, because it's people are embracing it that need to embrace it and listening. And I think it's ahead of its time for some communities. And that's okay. That's actually happened to many great films, where even with The Godfather, I found out that there was Italians that felt like, oh, this is not a
Sure.
very clear representation. So people from certain communities, especially when it's new, when this is a topic that's coming out and it's that true, that's the fear. There's so much fear when you are that authentic about the story, that a woman is trying to decide if she wants to remove the hijab. That happens all the time in this community. But to show it, it's very hard looking at it into the mirror.
At its core, is this story, Pomegranate, about division or is it about connection?
Oh, at the heart, it's about connection. Definitely. It's about
Okay.
love and unity and individuality and democracy, all the beautiful things. Yes, it's not about division. It's about how we can, I think that in order for us to be able to live together peacefully and harmoniously, we have to be honest with each other, and we have to have certain conversations that are hard to have. But once you have them, you're able to move on better than if you just kind of keep them inside and know that you're putting on a mask and pretending. That's what creates hatred, I think, is it builds up even violence. When things that you feel and you want to discuss and you want to express yourself, but you have to keep oppressing your feelings, what it just generates into anger and into violence at times.
What does the American dream mean to you personally?
Well, the American dream means that as long as it takes, there is a possibility, even if you came all the way thousands of miles away from the city of Baghdad to a country where the only words that you knew is yes and no. And as a woman minority, I was a minority in Baghdad. I often joke that you know, I majored in minority. I'm a minority of a minority of a minority, because in Iraq we were minority Christians, even though long ago the Christians were the people of that land, and that land spoke Aramaic, the language of Jesus, which a lot of our community members still speak. But we became a minority, and then when I came to the United States, I became a minority as a Middle Easterner, and I had to learn how to navigate that. But at the end, as difficult and challenging, and feeling like nobody wanted to open that door, always feeling like they're not hearing the stories they want to hear about our communities. But I stayed true. I did not bend in order to become a bestseller, in order to do this or to do that. I wanted to be in peace with what I was creating. And again, I'm a very faith-based person, so I was responding to what I felt like the world needs to see and hear, not necessarily what they want. Sometimes what we want is not the best thing for us. And the American dream is that when you have that idea about what you want to arrive to, you can. And that's as simple as it could be just the house that you want to buy, the car that you want to buy, the family that you want to create. It really does happen, because if it happened to me and I always would get from publishers and even Hollywood producers things like, oh, we wouldn't have an audience for that. There's no market for that. There was so many no's, no's, no's. But I wasn't the only one receiving a no. I learned later in life that so many people that had so many great stories experienced the same thing. So it's if you believe in yourself, this country gives you that, and you work hard. You can't just believe in yourself and sit on this chair and do
Yeah.
nothing. I worked very hard, 60, 70. I have two kids. I took care of my mom when she was living, and I did all the right, I took care of things, but it was very hard. But it did show that it does pay off. So I think my message would be for anybody, whether you're an immigrant or even born here, because sometimes the people that are born here, I say, like, when we came, we were striving for the American dream, so we pursued the American dream, so we knew where we were heading for that. But if you're born into the dream, sometimes you don't see it, and so you take it for granted that you were born on very sacred land that offers you so much. Just use that. That's really what I would give anybody, regardless of what your background is.
Well, the new movie is Pomegranate. Weam Namou is with us today. The film is currently streaming in 25 countries on Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, YouTube, and additional platforms. Good luck with the movie, Weam. Thank you so much for visiting with us today. We sure appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a very lovely conversation.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon, hopefully. Bye-bye now. 24 minutes past the hour. Let's take a break. We'll be right back here to KFYR+.